Good morning. Welcome to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Graddick, your host. Yes, you have me twice in 1 week. Nobody's real happy about that, but I'm here nevertheless. We're very pleased to have in studio a gentleman that was in the studio a couple of years ago, Kelvin King. He's now a candidate for Secretary of State. And I'm going to go through the bio because it's a very interesting bio, and so it'll take a minute to go through, but let's hit it. Kelvin King was born in Macon, Georgia, and raised in Mableton, Georgia. His mom, Janet, was a teenager when she had Kelvin. His mother, at a young age, had the courage to leave an abusive marriage, becoming a single mother of 2 children. Kelvin and his younger sister, Tamisha, was his younger sister. Kelvin spent most of his childhood in a single-parent home, and they oftentimes struggled to make ends meet. Though he became the man of the family early, his mother and grandmother worked hard to instill in him the values needed to grow into a successful young adult. It was these values he credits with earning him an appointment to the United States Air Force Academy, where he was an all-conference football player. Kelvin graduated from the academy and served 5 years in the Air Force as a contracting officer. He made the rank of captain before deciding to leave the military and transition to corporate America. He worked in procurement, business development, and eventually became the general manager of an international construction firm where he achieved numerous honors. After several years in his role, he decided to save enough money to start his own construction firm, Osprey Management. Kelvin's firm has twice been named the fastest growing business by the Atlanta Business Chronicle. Kelvin is married to Janelle, who serves as a panelist and commentator on Fox 5 Atlanta's The Georgia Gang. They founded Speak Georgia, a 501c3 organization designed to educate and provide resources to the community directly from subject matter experts. She also serves on the state elections board. The Kings attend the Church of the Apostles and in the free time enjoy cooking out with friends. Kelvin is also the proud father of a fellow Air Force veteran, Christian Ward. And I failed to mention we're on our News Talk 1330 Facebook page, which is also streaming to our YouTube page, besides being on our 2 radio frequencies. Whew. With all that said, good morning, Kelvin.
Hey, good morning, Steve. It's great to be here. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you again. So we've got the intro out of the way. So the first question, the shortest question, and the easiest question is why? Why are you running?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty easy answer too. It may not be a short answer, but it's easy for me and my family. I'm a believer in Matthew 25:14, the parable of the talents. I think that when God gives you skills or talents or any kind of blessing, He's give you that not just to sit on it and bury it, but to use it and multiply it. And one thing that I have that God has given me is I have the ability to lead. I have a background of government administration, and I've grown businesses, and I've seen the back ends of politics, and it's actually, it turns your stomach. And what I want to see is I want to see someone to step into this role as Secretary of State who understands that it's a role of the people. The Secretary of State is just an agent of the people. And we need transparency right now. The people don't trust our elections. The people are irritated by the licensing processes in the Secretary of State. And I'm well equipped to address all of the above. And when my wife was selected to be on the state elections board last summer, it was a surprise. We had no relationships really with Speaker John Burns, who appointed her. So we knew it was divine because when she started serving on that seat in that board, we were able to see the dysfunction in the Secretary of State's office, the dysfunction in our AG's office, and how the people of Georgia weren't getting their questions answered. That was easy for me. That was an easy decision to make. I'd already run for U.S. Senate. I had already campaigned in all counties in the state, all 159 counties in the state. And it was time for me to serve again. So that was an easy decision for me to step up to the plate and run for Secretary of State. Like I said, it wasn't a short answer, but it's very clear for me.
So the State Elections Board gave you a window into the nuances and the weeds that go on with the election systems in the great state of Georgia. And obviously, what you saw wasn't good. How bad was it?
Just wait and you're going to see. I mean, I know that sounds like a weird answer, but it was ugly, Steve.
Was it?
They're slow playing. They're slow walking. cases. And when I say cases, these are situations where people, election workers, or someone has filed a complaint about improper voting or improper voter. There's hundreds of these cases, and the Secretary of State's office was not funneling the cases to the State Elections Board in a timely fashion. In fact, just now, my wife has been on the board for over a year, and just now she's seeing cases from Fulton County from 2020. I mean, just the last 60 days. That's a problem. And the last 5 years or so since the 2020 election, what we've been told by our current Secretary of State, Raffensperger, is basically everything in our elections has gone smoothly. We've done audits, quote audits, I'm doing hand quotes, audits, and there's nothing to be concerned about with our elections. And that has been a lie. And a lot of that information is currently coming out. And I think the people are going to be awakened and I guess relieved that the truth is finally coming out. We have problems with our elections. We have double voting. We have people voting outside of districts. We have people voting that are ineligible. We have people committing felonies and not knowing it because they don't. They were allowed to vote in the wrong district. So there's a lot of issues with our elections, and we'll see. The curtains are being drawn back, and the covers are coming off of this situation, and we're going to see how bad our election cycle has been over the last few years.
I believe Raffensperger is running for governor, is he not?
Yeah, which is really surprising. I mean, if you're over the Secretary of State's office, which controls our elections or manages our election and elections, and you're currently sitting and running for governor, I think that's a conflict of interest. But I think the people can make that decision when they go to the voting booth on May 19th.
Our guest this morning is Kelvin King. He's a candidate for Secretary of State. We're going to be back with more with Kelvin after these words.
Imagine a place where every heartbeat is monitored with the utmost care, where emergencies are met with swift attention, and where cutting-edge technology enables precise and timely treatments. At Tanner Health, every patient's journey is a testament to resilience, a story of strength, healing, and hope. We go beyond treatment to redefine what compassionate care truly means. That's Tanner Health. That's care redefined. Learn more at tanner.org.
Oak Mountain Academy specializes in a customized designed academic approach tailored to meet the needs of our families. Our lower division prepares students with the necessary foundation to build excellence. Our middle division provides students with over 15 course offerings, providing them with opportunities to explore their talents and gifts. Our upper division provides personalized academic journeys, allowing them to achieve their dreams. I'm Patrick Uran, head of school, inviting you to journey with us. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us, where every path leads to purpose.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Raddick, your host. We have Kelvin King in studio, candidate for Secretary of State. We're on the Facebook page and streaming to YouTube channel, and also, of course, on 106.3 and AM 1330. So is election integrity mainly a matter of trust? I mean, if so, how do you build it up or restore it even with the split of opinion about the 2020 election?
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the most divisive topics in our party and in our state when it comes to elections. Election integrity is important, and it is about trust. And how do you build trust? You've got to prove yourself, right? You build trust over time. And right now, there's a lot of distrust in our elections. I typically do an informal, survey of my audience whenever I speak. I ask people, who is 100% certain that their vote in 2020, 2022, and 2024 counted? Very few people raise their hand. In fact, normally in a room of about 100, it's probably one person who raised their hands. And it's the most disappointing type of response that you can get, because that means that the people of Georgia have lost faith in our most precious foundational right, and that's our right to vote.
Well, I guess the fair question with that said is, do they have legitimate reason to have lost faith or faith in the system, or was it just all the political what's the word? Manichations or whatever it is.
Miscegenation?
Yeah.
But I don't know if I don't know what their personal reasons are. I think what people see, though, is that they tend to be able to look at trends and do math. People are not stupid. And when people see a president like Biden not campaign and win historically high numbers, and we know that there were absentee ballots sent out in an unprecedented amount of volumes, it tends to raise questions. And the questions are not necessarily inappropriate. The questions are typically, "Hey, prove this," or "Show me that." Show me the ballot images from Fulton County. Mm-hmm. Show me the tabulator receipts. Mm-hmm. That's all. And I think people have a right to do that. In fact, it's a fundamental of our country. Daniel Webster, I'm going to go history real quick. Daniel Webster was a Secretary of State of our country in the mid-1800s, 1840-50 time frame. And one of his quotes, Abraham Lincoln actually took it and changed it up a little bit. But his quote is that our government is made for the people, by the people, and answerable to the people. That means that when the people ask a question, the government is obligated to answer. And people have been asking questions for 5 years. There's hundreds of cases that the State Elections Board and the Secretary of State has not even gone through yet, that the people have asked questions to. There's answers that the people deserve. And as a Secretary of State, under Kelvin King administration, my promise is to investigate every case in a timely fashion and provide answers to the people. Right now, we're seeing cases brought up to our State Elections Board that were filed in 2021 about the 2020 election. That's 4 years later. Why is the Secretary of State's office slow walking cases and then telling us that everything's okay, just move on, that there's nothing to see here? There's a disconnect. And I think the people are right. In fact, one of my opponents who works for the Secretary of State's office, he's been the COO of the Secretary of State's office for the last 7 years, Gabriel Sterling. He told people who question our elections, he told them that they were dumbasses. Pardon my French, but he made this a public statement. He said that election suppression and election integrity are two sides of the same coin. And he says it's about 10% of our electorate, and they are dumbasses. And I say that we are not, because I'm one of the ones that's questioning our elections, and I'm nowhere near a dumbass. And the analysts who are finding irregularities, who are finding ballots that are replicated, signatures and initials on ballots that says test ballots that were actually counted. We want to know why that happened. There's no answers that's being provided by the Secretary of State's office. So to me, there's a dereliction of duty. And I have a plan. I have a platform on how to restore trust in our election process.
Okay.
We can get into that if you like.
Yeah, we will. But I think before we do, I want to get right into kind of one of the core divisive issues, which is that of Dominion voting machines, which I understand now are called Liberty Vote.
Liberty Vote, yes.
And is it, from what I gather, Georgia code or Georgia statute makes it illegal for if your vote is read only by a tabulator and not by a human being. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think what you're referring to is Georgia code that says the voter, the person who cast their vote, must be able to validate their vote on paper. That means that when you mark the ballot, that ballot has to, that voter has to be able to look at that ballot and say, yes.
But when it prints out, I can look at it and see that it voted for somebody, but then I put it in.
Then you put it in the scanner, and that actually tabulates and counts it. Well,
but
that sheet of paper has a QR code on it, right? Yeah. The QR code is
what they're doing.
Is a security code, and that holds your vote selection.
Right.
Yeah, there is text that's written below the QR code that lists your selection, but the scanner can't read the text. So basically, as a human, you can't validate what your selection was that's being counted, because what's being counted is the QR code. you can't read it. A human can't read a QR code. Now, a human can read text, but text isn't what's being scanned.
So therefore, would that make these machines illegal under Georgia law?
Therefore, yes, that's why the Georgia legislature last year passed a law to remove the QR codes by June 30th of this year. Like that's actually in place, but there's no action around it. So now it makes me wonder what the heck is going on with our legislature? What's going on with our Secretary of State? Why aren't we just following the rules that's in place for the people? So I want to hear answers to those questions. Well, we hadn't heard any answers, so I'm not waiting anymore. I'm running for Secretary of State to provide transparency, to provide compliance to our laws, and to restore trust in our elections. And like I said, I have a couple ways I'm going to do that.
One way before we get to that plan, I'm going to keep putting you off. So, do you support the abolition or the abolishment of these voting machines and going to paper ballots?
Yes, sir, I do.
Why?
Well, the reason why is because of what I said earlier. I don't believe in going backwards in time necessarily, but I do believe in restoring faith and trust. And the only way to restore faith and trust in our elections is for people to feel like their vote has counted. And the way to do that is to be able to audit your vote, your selection, your paper. So you have to be able to audit hand-marked paper ballots. You can't audit zeros and ones. You can't audit digitally, but you can audit paper. And when I use the term audit, I mean audit every single ballot to determine how many people casted a vote, not a risk limiting audit. What the Secretary of State talks about, and when they reference audit, is typically a risk limiting audit, which basically says, hey, I'm going to do a sample size. Let's just say if 100,000 people in Carroll County voted, and we want to know how true the vote is, how accurate the vote is, they'll do a sample size. They'll say, okay, we'll pull 100 votes of the 100,000, and if those votes are consistent with the outcome, that's it. We don't have to do anything else. That's not an audit. That is insane to me. I think that's actually misleading the people. So under a King administration, we will not be doing risk limiting audits, but we will be doing hand-marked paper ballots. And we will count them with technology, but you will always be able to validate them with an audit, with real paper and real people counting the paper.
I put you off a couple of times, so go ahead in the points of your plan that you haven't touched on.
Well,
what are some of the other ones?
I think you teed me off very well with that last question.
Okay.
And I'm one of the few candidates that's running for Secretary of State that believes in hand-marked paper ballots. I mean, two-thirds of America uses hand-marked paper ballots. So it's not like we're doing something that's insane or new or different.
Two-thirds of America does?
Yes, yeah.
And I understand all of France does.
Oh, I'm not even sure of that, but
Yeah.
that's a great example.
But is it not true, though? I mean, historically speaking, before all the machines and technology, I mean, fraud can still occur with paper
Yes, sir.
ballots.
Yes, sir. Fraud can occur, but you're able to find it easier when you have more mechanical paper, humans involved, cameras to monitor all the counting. Not double counting, but having someone to validate your count, having a secondary person. That's how you ensure accuracy. With leaning on technology so much, and the vulnerabilities that exist in our current Dominion system, you can't determine what's real and what's not, what's accurate and what's not accurate. The Dominion machine has not had a full-scale software update since the inception in 2019. So to me, that is a area of vulnerability. We've had people be able to show how they can tap into records in the Dominion machine, and they did this in front of people. It was a public forum board. So when you have accessibility concerns, you want to feel those concerns.
But I don't mean to interrupt, but in order to tap into the machines, you got to be able to get on the internet, correct? Or is that incorrect?
I don't know how to tap into it, Steve. I've just seen it done.
Okay.
And we hear something about, hey, you've got to go through the internet, and these things aren't connected to the internet, and that's not true. Just yesterday in the state elections board meeting, there was a statement made from a Fulton County attorney who was representing the county. I don't know if she said this incorrectly or what, but she made a statement about being able to wipe the ballot marking devices clean before you use them, you can do that remotely. So my wife questioned, she was like, what do you mean remotely? Like you can dial in from the cloud? And then she changed her statement and said, oh, well, no, we can what? I can't remember the term. We can delete the files, but she didn't say how. So I'm not sure what's happening. But what I do know is that the people don't trust. And I do know that to restore trust, you need to go to hand-marked paper ballots. You need to make sure that the QR codes are removed. You have to also make sure that on election night that I believe that you should post the number of votes that were cast, or the number of people that came in and out your precinct, and post that on the wall, on the window. These are all basics of sound voter processes that we need to get back into.
Going to an all paper ballot system, would that make it more or less likely that we would have our results in a matter of hours after polls close?
Yeah, that's a good question. People say, "Hey, listen, it's going to take all the weekend or several days to count." I believe in local processes. So at the precinct level, at the lowest level possible, that's where you do the counting. And most precincts can handle their counting within a few hours. Now, if you're trying to count all the votes in a county one night by one group of people, that may be difficult, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about lower level precinct counting of the ballots, sending those sending that up and having it revalidated at every level going up to the Secretary of State's office. Currently, LA County is larger than Georgia population, and they do the same process. They do hand-marked paper ballots, and they count that day in LA County.
Really?
Yeah. So there is precedent in doing what I'm talking about. And there's one other big thing I wanted to throw in there, and that is the Dominion contract was put in place in 2019. It was signed by Brad Raffensperger and Gabriel Sterling in 2019. It's a 10-year contract, so it expires in 2029. It has an option to renew for another 10 years. That means that the next Secretary of State will be responsible for the expiration of the current contract and the reprocurement of a new voting system. I would not want a single person in this race other than myself who has government procurement experience to be involved with a new purchasing of such an important and crucial system in our state. I think that gives me an advantage in this race because I do understand contracting and government laws and scopes of work and procurement requirements, and I'll make sure that the procurement or the new purchasing of either a hand-marked system or a citizen-approved system is done transparently and publicly.
Isn't that a $104 million contract?
Yeah, that's what I've read.
Yeah. I'm going to change, because we're going to run out of time, and change gears a little bit, because an important tool, or important responsibility, rather, of Secretary of State is voter roll maintenance.
Yes.
But I understand it's handled by a third party?
Yeah, it's handled by a system called ERIC. ERIC stands for Electronic Registration Information System. About 25 states in the United States utilizes ERIC, and no states around or that neighbors Georgia utilizes ERIC. And what ERIC does, it tracks movements of people from one state to the next, which allowing states to be able to scrub their voter registrations to make sure they're not illegally voting. Well, if the states that are neighboring us aren't using it, and only half the states are using it, why are we paying over $100,000 a year for a system that doesn't even maintain our voter list? We don't have clean voter lists, and voter list maintenance and improving the voting process, the machines or the process of hand-marked paper ballots. You have to do both at the same time to make sure you have sound elections. We have to have a secure voting system. We have to have clean, updated voter list or voter rolls. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sign memorandums of understanding with each Secretary of State in the states, or either a intergovernmental service agreement that allows us to communicate and compare movements of voters from state to state. I think that's the cleanest and most sound way of managing your voter rolls.
Okay. let's see. Anything else about your plan that I didn't touch on? You talked about you have your plan. Is there anything I'm leaving
On
out?
the voting side or on the business side?
Well,
Remember,
let's go ahead. Let's go
the
ahead.
Secretary of State's office is responsible
Yeah,
for
let's-
voting, business licensing, and formations, and as well as
Well, we hear
securities.
Georgia's the number one place to do business, et cetera, et cetera. But is that reflective of the Secretary of State's office being pro-business or what?
I think the Secretary of State's office plays a role in making sure that Georgia is the number one state to do business in. And right now, I think that they are derelict in their duty. I'm a licensed general contractor. I started my company 13 years ago from scratch. I've grown it, and it's hard. Business is hard, Steve. It's no joke. I'm sure you know.
I can't believe you're telling me that. That's what I say to everybody else.
Oh, okay. Well, an entrepreneur, a business owner knows it.
Yeah.
And the last thing we want is to.
And we don't talk about it.
I know.
Because we were prideful or whatever.
You just suck it up and do what needs to get done.
We persevere.
That's right. That's
and
right.
We don't talk about how hard it is.
Grit.
But you can't even imagine. People can't imagine how hard it is.
Grit and our quality. Our quality is a quality that's required to be a business owner. Yeah. And what you don't want to do as a public servant is you don't want to create more impediments and more obstacles and more red tape for business owners, or entrepreneurs, and more costs. So the Secretary of State's office is a customer service agency. So when a business owner who wants to, or entrepreneur who wants to go into business, they're already intimidated. They're nervous. They're probably broke, and they're doing, they're putting every chip on the table.
What is it? 50% fail out
Yeah,
the chute?
yeah, definitely that.
Yeah,
and most in 3 years. So the Secretary of State's office under a King administration, we're going to focus on customer service. I'm going to have a business liaison that's going to focus on different industries where there'll be a main contact to call to help navigate a person or entrepreneur through the process of business formation and licensing. It'll give them a hand up.
Our gratitude to Kelvin King for coming in. I think mechanizations, I think that was the word I couldn't come up with
sorry about that.
earlier. But if somebody wants to learn more about the Kelvin King candidacy, how should they go about it?
Sure. Yeah. Please go to kelvinking.com. That's KELVINKING. You can learn about our platform. You can sign up to be a volunteer. You can contribute to our campaign. We're definitely running a very tight campaign because I want to show people that a business mind can win races here in Georgia. So we're still open for donations, and just spread the word. Kelvin King for Georgia, Kelvin King for Secretary of State, and May 19th is the Republican primary.
And it'll be here before you know it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
Right
going to be
around
an
the corner.
interesting race. Your race may actually be the most interesting of the bunch.
I call it the most consequential race of the year because it impacts so many people.
Thank you for listening. Go out and make it a great day. You're in tune to WLBB Carrollton.